All right, I'm gonna get started. Right now we're going to do some live coding in Nim. And what I'm going to attempt to do is to do a clone of the Python Gooey library, where you provide some command line arguments to define a particular function that you're doing, and then it will create a GUI for it automatically. And this is going to be my first time doing a Nim package, so there's going to be some interesting kind of things that I will have to learn. So to start off with, I think what we need to do is actually to run Nimble, to initialize Nimble. So I'm going to try to figure out how to do it. I think you can do I actually don't know how you're supposed to do it. I think there's probably a Nimble init. It's like how most languages have it. Alright, it could not be inferred. So let's see what it has to do. So using nim GUI as a package name, which already seems like a bad choice. Probably because there shouldn't be underscores. So I'm going to change that in a second. And I think this is going to be a library, right? Yep. Package description, a GUI clone, but in nim. MIT, sure. After all, this is just for fun. I don't expect this to be amazing anyway. I probably should have just put this in a top level directory, so I'm going to change that just cause. And I am going to change this. Hang on, let's see what else I need to change. Should I have it with underscores? I might just leave it with an underscore. It doesn't really matter. I don't think anyone's going to be using this package anyway. So it's not a big deal. Alright. Okay. So are we going to use submodules? Well, let's see that we can actually run the test first. Now that I've changed some of the paths, and I also need to see how to build this and also run this. So let's see whether I can. Like how do I run tests? I actually literally don't know how to run tests. Oh, maybe the easiest way is just to do nimble h. Runs the package. Okay, uninstall, check, verifies the validity, develop, install, publish, uninstall, build, run, test, nimble test. Okay. Okay, so it works. Right, so let's think about what we want to do with this particular package. So let's start off by thinking about the deficiencies in passop in Nimble. Basically, in Nimble, it doesn't support a lot of things that are nice in Python. Right? In Python, you can specify the data type. You can specify it allows the data types, and also the way that the arguments are structured are just a bit nicer. So for example, in Python, we can do things like my program, and then you have like field data, right? And then it would assign within the arguments arg.field equals data, if this is a string. Whereas in Nim, it expects it to be in this form. Otherwise, this is just considered an argument. So let's try to extend what we can do in Nim first and see where it goes. There's a very first step. I think the way to go about this is rather than thinking about the user face, let's just try to create a better experience with the argument parser. Now I know there are other argument parsers, and again, this is just purely a learning experiment. It's not supposed to replace the other argument parsers, and I did look at them. They don't really support what I envision anyway. So to start off with, we need a way to infer the data types. So to do that, let's create a new variable. And I'm just going to firstly say this is Nim Gooey attempts to replicate the behavior within Python argparse and also in Python Gooey library. I'm going to enable line wrapping. So the first thing we want to do is we want to specify a data type. So I'm going to call this variant kind, and I'm just copying this from one of the forums. So I'll just paste it in the comments here. And we're going to specify a number of variables which we want to use. So I want to be able to use, and I might as well just copy it. I want to be able to use Boolean, strings, int, floats, a string array, integer array. Float array I actually want to remove because I think it will cause parsing issues down the line, but let's just leave it in for now and see where this goes. By the way, I don't actually have completed code. This is just trying to figure out how these things work. And we also want a variant type. So what this will do, this will allow us to correctly assign these kind of variables that we have, or these kind of variables that we have, to a particular mapping that is a pre-known type within Nim. So for example, we go from Boolean to Boolean value. So this is a attribute, I believe, if we thought of it as a object-oriented programming, related to bool, because we can't just overload things and have everything as value, and with a multitude of types. We have a Boolean value, string value, int value, and so on, based on the variant kind that we defined here. And this will allow us to be more flexible with how we define the particular the particular fields within our definition for our argparser. Now I know there is a nim argparse, which we're not going to make as flexible as their one for a number of reasons. So the next thing we need to think about is, well, what is the signature of how we define our particular scenario with the different arguments. So in order to address that, let's firstly look at how passop does this, because we're just going to build on top of passop. We're not going to try to recreate the real wheel and create a custom parser. So passop, which we have here, let's have a look at one of the examples, and we'll use that as a basis somewhat for. We're going to use actually the nim argparse as the basis, and also passop, and maybe even the one of the Python examples. So let's use an example where we want to parse something that looks like I'm trying to think of let's just make up an example. I think that's easier. So let's say that we want to pass something that is like a flag, right? So that's a Boolean flag. And then we want to pass also a variable, right? So let's pretend that it's a string. So if it's my name, we also want a number, right? We want a field that is called a number. And let's call this type 1. And we also want some kind of list of things that we want to do, so just so that we can deal with sequences or arrays. Let's say input, and we'll call it file1.txt, file2.txt. And here we have a bunch of different things that we want to implement. We have a Boolean, we have a string, using this kind of assignment, which is in passop. We have let's suppose this is an integer where we want to assign it in this particular way, and we also have an array that we want to assign to input. So we have a multitude of things that we want to be able to parse, and we're going to do this using a passop library. So by default, if we look at passop and how this would be handled, let's have a go and have a look at what would happen here. So let's do import passop, and let's have a go at if we were to pass this. So let's go var p is equal to init op parser, and I'm just going to paste this, and let's just go through the default way of what it does, and we'll have a look at what it looks like. So nim Gooey. Okay. Right, so we can see that this is the output. We see an f, then we have a var with a option value var and my name, then we have type, then we have 1, and then we have input, and we have file1, file2. Okay, you can see that type and 1, they're not considered to be a key value pair, which is okay. We can deal with that in our parser later on. Okay, so that's sort of the groundwork laid down. So the next step is we need to define how we want to read this in and what the structure is. So the kind of format that I thought of and got out is we want to define our argparse builder, I suppose, to be in a particular format. And I sort of thought of it should probably look something like this, right, I'm gonna take inspiration from Python and just say that it needs to be a sequence. We want it to be a sequence because the ordering will define how we lay out our GUI later on in the track. So let's just, I'm going to just, I might just delete this for now. I don't need it. Let's just have a look and think about how we want to define our GUI. So our GUI probably, it needs to be a sequence of things because we need to understand what it is. And then we want to define our arguments. So let's just use arg for now. I can change it later. And we want a key. We want a default value. We want an action. So Python, they use like store or store true. And we also want a type, right? So we want a type, and because type is a protected kind of keyword, let's use type name. So that's sort of our signature. And right now we want something like key is equal to f, right? The default value, well, we can say that we want this to be Boolean of some kind. So maybe we want this to be false actually by default, and in Python they'll have a store true, okay, and we want this to be a Boolean, and I'm just going to use what we've already defined in the type kind to be VK, the variant kind to be bool. Right. So we have key is a string default. We need to think about how we handle this better, because the default is actually should be of this type, right? Action store, this is like a switch to say we want to do one of a couple of things, and maybe we define it as an enum, but let's just leave it like this for now. But this field is wrong, right? Because this needs to be of the type that is a variant type. So let's think about how we can, what it should look like. So we can quite simply just create a variant type, right? We can just say that this is variant type. This is a variant kind. This is a string. This maybe could be an enum, but let's just set it to be a string for now. And the default value for this one is so this is an object. So kind, hang on, variant type, yep. Kind equals VK bool, and bool value is equal to false. Let's see if it likes it. It probably doesn't. Oh, right. So this is, I'm gonna call this option. So for now, this doesn't exist, so I probably need to define it. Proc opt, and I'm gonna call it key string. This is probably the wrong place to define types anyway. So we want a key string default variant type. Type name is variant kind, and this is this outputs an object that I haven't defined yet, right? Because it needs to be this kind of thing. Action, and we want action to be a string. Yeah, so this is like sort of the signature that we're after, and now we need to define what this object looks like. So this object that we're going to create, opt object, and let's define what this looks like. Opt object. So this has a key, which is a string. It has a value, which we're gonna give it a variant type. It has a long option. I'm just using long option and short option because this is what is defined in the passop. It has a default value, which is also a variance type. It's an action, which is a string, and it has a type name, which is a variant kind. Okay, so and now we can initialize this as well. So let's initialize this with some values, and let's give it some default values. So the default, I think because now we have value and long option, these should also be in the initialization. So this is variant type, and the default value should be a variant type of something. I suppose that it should be of a type, you know, vk nil and empty string, and default will make it nil empty string. I'm going to make this default to be store and the default type to be equal to vk nil. And we want result.key equals key, result.value equals value, result.default equals default. We're going to change some of these later. Result.action equals action. Result.long option equals long option. Result.short option equals short option. Result.type name equals type name. Right. Yeah. So yeah, of course this is not how you initialize objects, so I probably should have another prop which is init variant type, which is this kind of a variant kind, and this is where things get messy, so let's not do that. Create variant type. How about that? Create variant type. So we're going to create a variant type, and it will take in two fields, which is a type name of a variant kind, and let's call it value, or I'll call it a string value so that you have to parse it, so we can do something with that. So string, and then it returns a variant type. Okay, so what does this do? Well, let's do result is equal to, actually, no, this is fine. What am I doing? Kind equals this, and no value equals this. Does that work? Variance type, store, yep, and there we go. So long options is missing, even though there's a long option here, so let's add that in. So long option is a string. Let's make it empty. Short option is also a string, and let's make it empty as well. Okay. So yeah, there we go. We've initialized our arg_opt in this way. So let's just go initialize here. Variant kind. Kind full value, and there we go. So that will be our f. And we need to define a long option, or maybe we can infer it from the key. So so what we'll do is, we'll add some switches. So if long option equals this, then else it will be this, and we can do the same for short option. short option should always be equal, because sometimes you don't have a short option and you don't want to override things. Okay, so yeah. If this is true, then what we want to do is we want to take the first character of the string. So we need to go something like the key, and we take the very first thing. Yeah. So I don't believe that is the right syntax. I actually need to go look it up. Take first character of string in nim. Yeah, because you can't slice it that way. It's probably something in string utils, like to get a substring. Split. Substring in nim. Let me find out. So yeah, if it's empty, basically we want this. Oh, actually, we don't need substring at all. It's just equal to the key. Okay, short option. Now the other thing that we want is, if value is nil, then that should be equal to default as well, right? So if value dot kind is equal to nil, then else should we assign it? We actually want this to be equal to default. Action key, type name. Right, and we have to just ensure that the default and variant kind are the same type, or rather we can set type name to be equal to default. So maybe that's a better way of doing it, so that, or maybe not, we need to just add an assertion. So assert assert default dot kind is equal to type name dot kind. Oh no, this is equal to type name. So that will ensure that they're the same type when you put in a default parameter and the type name. But that doesn't really make sense if the default is nil. But I don't think, yeah, maybe I'll just add if default dot kind is not equal to vk nil, assert this is true. Now already we probably need to type in some kind of tests, but we'll leave that for a second. Let's just define what this signature looks like. Okay, so the next thing we want is a var, key var, and the default should be a string. And let's say the string value is an empty string. Then we have a integer where key is type, vk int, or maybe let's try not having a default value. Let's see what happens. Vk int, and this is a vk string. Right, and it's not a string value. What is it? Because I use shorthand. And then lastly, let's do a similar thing. Well, this is not store true. This is a store. So maybe I can delete that. Store true, I can delete that as well. And the final type, well, final field should be input, and the type is a VK sequence string. Right. Now let's try writing some tests for this. Tests are always important. Okay, so again, I haven't really done much of this before in Nim. So we just want to test some of these statements here. So if we go key is equal to hello, and do check key is equal to hello. Doesn't really do anything, but let's do check long option is set correctly. I'm just going to ignore that. There's probably something wrong with my editor. Check.long option equals hello. Okay, now let's see if nimble run test. Oh, nimble test. I believe it's because I need an asterisk. Is it? I actually don't know. Maybe I shouldn't have deleted the initial add. Well, this is going to be fun. This is equal to this. This is expecting a argot. P is declared and not used. Yeah. Oh. Protected keyword. Since this is an object, this should actually be capitalized, right? That's probably my bad. Declared but not used. Identifier. Now let's have a look at Nim Package template, because I'm probably have something wrong with my package structure. It's always why I should start a lot smaller than what I've done. But anyway, let's have a look at oops, not Python, UCR in Gooey. So let's see that that works correctly first. Should just compile correctly. And let's do some assertions to make sure that what I've done is correct. Because these should work as well, right? Let's let's just do an echo outvar.p and outvar.long option. Right, so we both get hello, so it should work, which just means that there's something wrong with how I've set up my packages. Let's try and nimble test. Oops. Nimble test. And let's try to debug what's going on. Nimble package. Right. Maybe the quickest way is to open a new one. So let's do make dar nimble sample nimble init and nimble test. Verify that that works. So tree. Yeah, so we have test one and nimble sample. So let's have a look at nimble sample. How is that? What does that look like? Right. Okay, so I probably need to add a so that it gets exported. Let's see if that makes a difference. If it does, then that's my fault. Nope. Then let's go and have a look at the tests. Cats tests 1 can add, and it is to check add 55, right? And here is that. To run these tests, let's run that. So I'm actually not sure what's going on. Oh, is it because I'm going to do this as well? Nope. So let's do a verbose. Undeclared field key for type. Interesting. So the hint here is for this line, which I know is not used. I know passop is not used. So if I actually just set this to be blank, I wonder if this will just run the test, right? Let's just comment this out. Okay, so it will run the test correctly because it doesn't do anything. So let's have a look at, oh, is it because, oh, let's try one thing at a time. Okay, let's have a look at what echo out bar looks like. Probably done something really silly, or something I don't understand in Nim. Right, so key long option hello. Yeah, so we can see all of this, which looks fine. Question is, how do we get the value of key? Now, I thought that you don't have to worry about getters in Nim. That was my expectation. So let's try to dig a little deeper and see what has happened. Right. Key is, so maybe let's just also, the key is a string, right? So it doesn't really matter about that. Oh, let's do a key, and then I don't want that. Let's just hide all of that so that I don't get confused. Okay, undeclared field. Field in nim objects get. Do I have to be explicit with a getter? Might be the reason. So then the question is, how do we check? There should be a way to check fields within objects. Hold certain values. I feel like I'm overthinking something and not understanding something in Nim. Right. Have a quick look. Because this works as I expect, but not here. Because you should be able to do like an object dot the key name, right? I think 37. shouldn't even be. Oh, okay. Oh, guess I have to be explicit. Let's see if that's just my misunderstanding. Okay, so this just looks like my misunderstanding in how nim handles objects. So the question is, how do we test private methods and private variables down in nim? Let's have a look. You include the file you want to test instead of importing it. Okay, there we go. So this should now work. Let's delete all of these things and try again. Okay, so the more you know. So this is what we need to do. We need to do include, and then all of a sudden we can test these things. Okay, so let's just go back to writing our tests. It's important that I did this now rather than later. And clearly when I was first laying out the sketch for this stream, I didn't obviously run tests. So okay, so that looks like it works correctly. So now let's write another test. So let's test default correctly overrides value. Okay, so let's try this. So we want to do default equals variant type kind vk string, and this would be string value is hello. Now I already know that I have to handle my variables a lot better than I have, because some of these things the user, if they do use this library, will actually need to access the variables. I mean the object types. So we expect these two things to be equal. So let's check that that is true as well. Okay. Fields iterator does not work for case objects. So I presume it's just probably this is hard for that to work. So let's just try that. Error. Failed. Okay, so we're getting somewhere. Let's just echo these two things. Okay, so there we have our error. Default.kind equals type name assertion default 63 and 12. Oh, because I didn't specify the type. Okay, so that is correct. So I need to specify the type to be VK string. Okay, now it should work. Or not. Undeclared field type name. Of course, didn't put it in the right field. Invalid expression type name should be equals. Getting a bit silly. Okay, so there we go. So now it looks like it's working correctly. It's actually quite hard to code on a small screen. Okay, so we have some tests. We have this sorted out. And now we have a definition of how we want to load these variables. So the next and final step is, of course, to run it through the argparser and make sure everything gets assigned correctly. So let's give that a go as well. Okay, so to do this, let's think about how we would process this within the context of the while loop, and what other perhaps methods or procs we need to define in order to update the values correctly. So what we need to do is, if we think back to what the proc looked like, it's actually quite all right. And those are my notes. Because what we need to do is we need to have the while true loop. So let's have a look at what optparse has. While true. Okay. So this is what it looked like. It was while true and p is equal to init optparser, and this thing here, I'm going to call this something else. Pass builder, let's say. And we already saw how this played out. So probably the only other change, a couple of changes that we need to make is we need to be able to assign what the current key is, right? So let's do that by saying if it is either a short option or a long option, we want to update a variable called currentkey is equal to p.key, and of course we need to say that this is actually a string. Because when it's an argument, this is actually becomes a value, right? So this is the value if current key is assigned, because it's the one that is after. So in a situation where p.value is empty, all we've done is update the key. Otherwise, we do assign it because it will be in this particular scenario. Otherwise, if it's in this scenario, we want to use current key and assign the p.key to the value of current key. It sounds kind of confusing, but let's just have a go in probably a really naive way of what it would look like. We need to define something that will parse the current key and parse the value and assign it to a key. But let's just make our lives a bit easier to start off with, and just use an echo to say that, okay, we are going to update a particular value with this key. Right, so we want to say option, let's print things. Current key is key. Current key is current key assigning value that, and then we want to have current key is current key assigning value is p.key. So let's just have a look at what this looks like. nim Gooey. So current key is f, then we have var assigning to my name, then we have type, and then we're assigning the value to 1, which is correct, and then for input we're assigning value file1, file2. This obviously overwrites in this particular scenario, so we need a clever way to recognize that this is a sequence, of course, based on the key. So So based on all of this, the immediate solution is that we need to convert this into some kind of hash table, so that when we look up the key, we know that it is like a sequence or it's an int, and we know how to handle the resulting string. So let's do that. We wanted to define a we want to convert this structure. So the reason why, again, I started with a sequence is because we want to convert this to a Gooey. Otherwise, we would have just defined everything in a table. But we can just convert this or map this to a table. So to do this, we go for value in pass builder. We just want to do something with a table. So pass table, and we want to take val.key, and that is just equal to the whole object. Of course, we haven't defined what pass table is, so let's make pass table to be a table which is a string as a key and opt as an argument. So I think we need to import tables as well, so we can't just do that naively. So import tables, and then what we want to do is we want to, current key is this, is when we're assigning a value, we want to go with when we're assigning a value, we want to go, well, this current key, we want to update the value, right? So we want to do some kind of dot value is equal to some new value, which is defined to be this. So variant kind of this dot type name and of something, but we don't know what this is, so we probably want a procedure to do this. So we want a proc that is like let's say set opt value, and it just takes in the type name and it takes in the string. And for the command argument, we should be able to do the same thing. Maybe I don't want to call it set, because if it's a command argument and it's an array, then it becomes a an add, right? So let's call it update. You can see I'm flying somewhat blind here. We want to update here as well. So we have the signature. Now we just need to define this proc update. So the first thing is a type name, and it's of type variant kind. Yep. And the value is just a string. So now we need a way, and the output is a variance type. So now we just need a way to take in the kind, we take in the string value that's got from the passop, and then convert that to something that we can use. Okay, so to do this, what we need to do is we need to just throw in another case statement and iterate through every conceivable case to update the value. So variant kind. So let me double check type. So we want to do case of type name, because this is an enum of vk bool. If it's vk bool, then result is equal to variance type of kind vk bool, and if it's a boolean, we want to do like pass bool value, I guess. Okay, yeah, there's a whole bunch of cases missing, of course. vk string, well, the result is just equal to the value itself. And this is a bool value. Let me split right so I can see what I'm doing. Here you go, bool value. Okay, and then we have string value is value. Incorrect object construction. I probably need to import string utils. Well, this is vk string. Or can I just do type name, kind type name? Right, and let's go through the next one. So after vk string is vk int, this becomes parse int value, and we can do the same thing with a float. Value, and this should be a int value. This is a float value. And then after float, what do we have? We have a sequence string. Okay, now this one's a bit trickier because we don't just want to overwrite, right? We want to add. So this is where this update arg opt value is not sufficient. Because you probably want to maybe this should be called set, so that we differentiate set and update. So if it is just setting, that's pretty straightforward, right? Even for this one, because this becomes, for the string, it is just that. Space after colon. Okay. And then we can do the same thing for the intended floats. Let's be consistent and do an int first and then the float. And this is the sequence int. This is vk float. This becomes pass int. This becomes pass float. And then if it's nil, well, I don't think there's much to do here. Just try and type name. And nil value is just empty string. Right, so that's how we update. And how we set is different, because when you set, we probably need the full information of what this thing is. I mean, not set, sorry, when we update. So this is actually set. And then update, I think it's better to have this whole thing. Now, I think there's probably a lot of not good stuff in this code, but we're gonna leave it for now. I can already see a couple of things. Just to avoid thinking too hard about certain aspects. So we're going to do var type name is equal to arg_opt.typename, and I think we do var is equal to variant type. Hang on. No, that's correct. So we're going to do var. We're going to set result is equal to arg_opt.val for now, right? It's basically if it's of case of all of these, including vk nil, then there's not much to be done. Basically, you just go result is equal to variance type of variance kind and value. Yeah. This is an arg_opt value. How come I've called everything val here? Should be value. Okay. Arg.type name should be legit. It is type name, yeah. So I'm just gonna ignore that for now. But what is different is, oh, even VK nil is the same, right? But what is different is all the ones that deal with sequences. A string. Because then what this is var like this is actually equal to probably need to import like sequence utils or something, I believe. Hang on. Sequence utils. Yeah, so we probably need to do like it becomes something like result dot add value. This is mutable, and I think that's it for that. For this one, you would do that, but you'll be pass value. And for this one, it'll be the same, but float value. But these are not sequence strings, right? This becomes a sequence int, and this becomes a sequence float. So then hopefully that will update everything as well, and then allow us to properly assign things. So let's just give this a run and see what happens. Of course, I'm not printing out the value of the tables. Runtime discriminate if the branch fields are initialized. A let binding is required in 105.31. I think clearly I don't know what I'm doing. If branch fields are initialized. Oh, I see. Okay, invalid integer and pass int for this. So where am I? Probably in here somewhere. Assigning value 1, so type 1. So why is 1 an invalid integer when I update this? So we've got line 109. Very interesting. I am not sure. let's just have a quick look. This seems very silly. Value is empty. Oh, it's probably because it has now been consumed. So that's probably my fault. So what I probably want to do is, you don't want to echo this. You just want to move this straight here. Right, you don't want to echo this. You probably want to, let's print it out. Current key is this assigned value of passTable.value. How about that? No, I actually want to var p-val is equal to p.val. Might as well. P.key, right? So let's just make sure that I don't do anything silly. P.val, this is P.val, P.val, and echo passTable. Let's just hope this works. nim-cr of Gooey. Okay, so now that the key shouldn't be consumed, let's see what has happened. Seek string is not accessible using the kind of variant type. Fatal, this is on line 116. Ah, okay. P.add value. Maybe I'll just recreate this. I'll update everything later. Equals P. Undeclared identifier seek string. I see. Okay, so maybe let's just echo result. Let's see what happens. I want to do nothing. Check me here. nice and loud. Yeah, so the problem is that this is a nil value, so I need a condition to assign when it's a nil value. Okay. This makes sense because when it's running through here, if it hasn't been assigned and it hasn't been created, then the array doesn't exist, so therefore it doesn't do anything. So we probably do need to add a check. Yeah, this could be done in a number of ways. Let's do it in probably the better way. Rather than adding the check there, it should be a bug, considered to be a bug in the initialization. Yeah. Maybe. Yeah, I think so. Yeah. So if result.default.kind equals vk nil, right, then there's probably a whole bunch of things that we can check first. Like yeah, and consider it to be an empty array. Variance type kind type name yeah. Let's do it this way, and type name equals vkseek string, then we do it like this. Yep. And we'll just have to create if statements for all the other array types. So this becomes, if it's of sequence int and of float, and now when I run this, it should work, right? So let's, oh, of course this is a mistake. Float int, and now when I run the update, it should work. So update maybe we can just do it just like this, right? So let's see what happens. No. Unidentified identifier 6 float. So this is on line 59. Okay, variance type. Seek string is not accessible of kind verb type of line 124. Okay, so it doesn't work. So what we're gonna do, whoops. RP is a seek string, and we're going to do p.add and assign it like this, and hopefully this will work. It's not accessible using discriminant kind of type string. It's line 125. Well, why not? Echo results. Okay, it's probably because it's still being assigned nil. So that's probably a test case that we need to look at. Yeah. Yeah, well, let's just do it the bad way, adding a condition here, and I'll go back and fix this later. So we want to do if results kind is equal to vk nil, then result is equal to seek string value. I can actually just copy this, right? So let's just copy that to start off with, and we'll just add these if statements. If that's true, if that's true, if and then that's true. Else. Yeah, so then we go else this is true, else do this, and the last one, else do this. Okay, nim pretty nim Gooey. Alright, so let's see what has happened. So I've echoed pass table, but that's like impossible to read. So let's just echo a couple of new lines, and then for key in pass table, let's just have a look at what it looks like. Oh, it's probably better to do key value in pairs. Echo k. So let's see what's happened. Actually, let's make this a little bit more explicit and just do dot value code this. Let's have a look if this has worked correctly. So we can see when we pass this line, we get the first one, var is of kind string and my name, type is int, value 1, input is a sequence of strings, file1, file2, and f is a boolean and it is false. So this is incorrect. So let's yes, because if it gets assigned, we need to flip it, right? So it becomes well, this is not right. Because we need to flip the default value. But I'll deal with that later. So this is a bug that I'll deal with later. I'm gonna end the video here, and I'll have it, and we'll talk about what better ways of handling this kind of thing is, because then it means that our signature here is incorrect, right? Because we need to understand the state of the actual argument option. So we'll leave that for another stream. And we'll end it here, and we'll talk more about trying to do Gooey in Nim.